Hello and welcome back to Quarterlight, your car brochure channel. Today we'll be looking at the MG Midget, MGB and MGB GT. Welcome back, and Quarterlight, if you don't know, if you've not been here before, we look at car brochures from around the world. So if you've got any sort of interest or indeed guilty pleasure looking at car brochures, please consider subscribing. I'd also like to say thank you for those who have all subscribing recently. Do appreciate you. It's lovely having you here, and I hope you continue enjoying the channel. And of course, if there's any sort of brochures you particularly want to look at, jot it down in the comments. I'll try to do them at some point. It won't be straight away. It might take a month or so before I actually get round to doing it, but I will try and do the brochures you request, because after all, I'm trying to build a little bit of a community and a little bit of a channel for yourselves. But anyway, back to today's episode. The MG Midget, MGB and MGB GT, all found within this brochure dated November 1978. Yeah, it's getting late on for these models now, and if you notice, I'm sure you have already, this is the black bumper models, the sort of the models that were kind of like looked down upon by MG enthusiasts not so long ago, and indeed some people spent a lot of money changing them black bumpers and putting the chrome bumpers, making it look more like a 60s cooler model. But I think these 70s models, late 70s black bumper models, are kind of like finding their own little niche, and maybe it might be, if you've got any interest in MGs, maybe a good time to buy them, because they are certainly the cheaper models, and I think they will go up in prices. The 70s is now becoming a more sort of cooler era, where the 60s was always the cars to buy. Anyway, I'm waffling, aren't I? Let's have a look at today's brochure dated November 1978. So there we go. Today's brochure, as it says there, we've got the Midget, the MGB GT and the MGB. You can see those rubber bumpers now a bit more clearly. Really there to meet US crash safety standards at the time. And unfortunately, British Leyland were so cash strapped at the time, they couldn't afford to make a separate body style or chassis for the US market and the European market. So they went for the US market because it was such a huge market, and they certainly couldn't pull out of that. It did mean putting these black bumpers on, to much dismay by MG enthusiasts at the time. It was a heavier bumper for one thing, and also they changed the ride height by 1 inch because the headlights had to be so high up. Cheapest way for, rather than just restyle the front end, was to raise the body height, and it affected road holding as well, unfortunately. But like I said at the start there, I kind of think this sort of like 70s style is starting to become a little bit more in than it was in the 70s and 80s, and maybe the prices of these rubber bumper models may actually start rising. My humble opinion. Anyway, I'm sure many of us will disagree. And of course, these bumpers also added about £100 or so to the weight, so it affected things in many different ways. And certainly if you look at a lot of the American cars, the European cars that were sold in America, they had huge crazy bumpers on there to meet the regulations and really spoilt the looks. And yes, I don't mind these ones on the MG, actually. Maybe it's because I remember so many of them running around in the 80s with these black bumpers on, that it's kind of like part of my childhood, I guess. So yeah, I don't mind them at all. But anyway, let's open the brochure up and let's see what we can see inside. So as we open the brochure up, it's a long brochure, that's why I've got it as a pretty weird angle in this case. Lovely yellow, yeah, I do like the yellow cars, but there it is, it does look nice in yellow in this sort of workshop type scene. And we notice we've got kind of like square rear arches, kind of like after 76 it went for this more of a squarer, I think really to make it a stronger car overall. If we pull the brochure along if we can do. We can see there's a little bit of luggage space. There's the engine and another little image of the MG. And there is a little bit of text on here as well, which we'll certainly go through. So the MG Midget, every inch a sporting car. If you dream of owning a sports car, the MG Midget will make it reality. For the price of a small saloon, here's a real Sportster, built on tradition, proven in rallies, raring to go. Look at that shape, handsomely hinting at things to come. Low lines, long bonnets must mean high-powered excitement, and you won't be disappointed. The rugged 4-cylinder 1493cc twin-carb power unit seeing to that. 1493 from the Triumph Spitfire, of course. Armed with the power that made MG famous. Controlled through the very responsive 4-speed synchromesh gearbox, this is a performer, generous in everything but petrol. But don't let this exhilaration make you forget that it's also a practical car. I'm not sure about a practical car. I think they're kind of like stretching the imagination a bit there. But open the lockable boot and there's a 7.1 cubic feet of luggage space. Then again, open the throttle and there's no doubt this is a world-beating sports machine. Yeah, really stretching the imagination a little bit. But like it says there, it's kind of like the entry level model to get into an MG. Interior shots of the Midget, this unusual placing for the rear view mirror, actually mounted low down. Not a bad little, quite a basic dash, but we have got a rev counter on there, which was a little bit, certainly not the norm in the 70s, so that's nice, and a few extra little controls. We've also got obviously a soft top, and this unusual, which you did see these quite a lot around, but I never really saw the point of this sort of like cover just for the lower part. Yeah, you can zip it and you can roll it off, but personally I never saw the point of it. It looks pretty hard to get it all off. I think you're just better with a normal soft top, but again, maybe that's just me. And then on the opposite side of this page we can see, typical in car brochures, a young lady about to drive it, or really just pausing in it, I guess. Not a huge car, the Midget, it was a pretty cramped compartment, so if you was on the taller side you may struggle in there. There is also some text on here as well, which we'll have a look at as well. So the Midget, at the centre of the action is the cockpit. Every inch designed to fit you like a glove. Take the figure-hugging seats, for instance. I think basically it's just saying another way of saying that it's a small car there, fits you like a glove, but there we go. As a touch is adjusted to your very own driving position. Within your reach are the sport-style steering wheel and gear change. Before your eyes is a read-at-a-glance instrumentation. Seating in the car, you become part of a total experience, and the little luxuries aren't left behind. There's wall-to-wall carpeting, fresh air heater, tonneau cover, head restraints, 2-speed windscreen wiper, and a centre console containing radio speaker, cigar lighter, and handbrake on brake line failure warning lamp. Everything for comfortable, relaxing driving, so take a test drive at your local dealer. Hood down and away, it goes like a dream, although the MG Midget is very much a reality. So there we go, the MG Midget, and at this time the MG Midget was just called the MG Midget 1500. Previous to that would have replaced the Mark III in 74. So this ran from 74 to 80. At this time it had a 1493 engine from the Triumph Spitfire and a Morris Marina gearbox. Speed wise, doesn't mention speed anywhere in this brochure, strangely enough, but we're talking about a top speed of just over 100 miles per hour. 0 to 60, I don't know, 12 seconds, 13 seconds, something like that, I would assume. Doesn't mention any speeds anywhere in this brochure, maybe because they weren't really fast vehicles. Fun to drive, yes, but not really a performance car as we kind of like think about it. But we'll turn the page and see what else we can see on here. Okay, so let's turn the page and I think we start looking at the next model in the range, the MGB. Again, a big page, and we'll look at sort of this side in a moment, but that's a sort of nice image of this, you know, probably the colour that most people would want their MG in, this lovely green, these lovely roster wheels. I think there was also an option to do wire wheels even at this late time. And like I say, on the MGB, I don't really mind them bumpers too much. I know a lot of people really hate them, but I really don't mind them at all. So those particular bumpers were actually made out of material called Bayflex, I do believe. And like I said, they were heavier, added about £100 or so. Raised the ride height to meet the US standards as well. And when they first came out, which was kind of like late 74, I think, when the black bumper models arrived, they didn't have anti-roll bars. But by this stage, the anti-roll bars had actually been returned on the vehicle, and actually they drove pretty nicely. Over the other side, on this side, another image of a yellow one with this nice black roof on there and a little bit of text. So we'll have a look at this. Not just a car, an experience. Okay, so it says here the MGB. Not just a car, an experience. The sun in your face, the wind in your hair, the sensations of speed while sitting in style. The essence of high-powered luxury sports car motoring can be summed up in 3 letters: MGB. Take another look at the now classic body lines. Your friends and passers-by will. There is no doubt it's sporty, but is it safe? A strange little caption there. Yes, its safety features are numerous. Laminated screen, 5 mph impact absorbing bumpers, yep, even the black bumpers are mentioned. Fitted head restraints, hazard warning lights, reversing lights and halogen headlamps. Ross-style wheels and radial tyres, as well as an anti-dazzle interior mirror. For safety, an MGB is hard to beat. Obviously by today's standards, that really isn't the case. So there we go. So I'm sure there's more information on the MGB Roadster. We'll turn the page over and have a look at these amazing seats. I do love 70s seats. You think about the TR7 with their lovely striped seats. Again, we've got these lovely striped seats in the MGB. Really nice interior, contrasting against that green paintwork. There is a little bit more text over this side, and also another look at one of these strange lower body just covering the seats tonneau cover. Again, I don't see the point, and a little bit of an image showing some of that sort of boot space, in this case for some kind of like tennis game by the looks of it. The text at the top here, it's saying, if I can manage to try and get that somewhere near readable, it says MGB. Nothing beats the first moment you sip into a rake adjusting seats, cloth covered in sporty stripes to coolly grip you in summer and warm your spirits in winter. Just settle your feet into the fitted carpet. Even the longest legs won't feel cramped. Adjusting the swivelling sun visor, feel how the pedals are nicely placed for heel and towing. Turn the key and away. If you thought sports cars are notorious for a hard ride, try the MGB. The suspension gives better ride and handling than ever before. And if you worry about economy, be reassured. With overdrive as standard, its fuel consumption at high speed cruising is very good. But the boot isn't economical. It swallows all you put into the 9 cubic feet, approximately, of space, with the MGB, you win always. Great little text. I do like this brochure for the strange wording and turn of phrase within it. Okay, and as we go back onto this page again, gotta just mention this, of course, haven't we? This is what we call a quarter light. It's what the channel is named after, and I probably haven't even mentioned this on the program before, but the reason why the program is called Quarter Light is because the first ever car that I remember as a kid was my dad's Morris Oxford Series 6. And I always remember the quarter lights. It was kind of like the thing I really liked as a very small child, so that's why the program's called Quarter Light. So I thought I'd better mention that before we move on to the next page. And the next page is showing a lovely interior shot of the MGB, really showing that nice interior with lots of controls and various meters on there, and this looks like gearbox with overdrive, very black. This particular one hasn't got quite as interesting seats, but still a nice striped design on this red MGB. There is also some text on the other side, and also some nice sort of interior engine shot, and an image of this lady fighting with that cover. Not sure if it's about to rain or if it's just drying up, but she certainly looks like she's struggling a little bit. 1798cc engine in this, if you're wondering. Okay, so it says the MGB sitting in the fully equipped cockpit facing the smart dashboard with padded surround. You'll see all the instruments and controls you'd expect. There are handbrake and seatbelt warning lights, plus face level ventilation, lockable glove compartment and a hinged centre armrest with storage compartment beneath. There's a flick wipe added to the 2-speed wipers. The cigar lighter, a clock and armrest fitted to each door also act as door pulls. Each door also contains a radio speaker. At night, the dials glow green and main switches and heater controls are illuminated. Mechanically, it has a pedigree of built-in reliability. Ahead of you sits the tough, well-proven 1798cc power unit with the smooth, responsive 4-speed synchromesh gearbox and electronically controlled overdrive. You get performance with economy. And the thermostatically controlled electric fan keeps everything cool. If you want to know what it feels like to own an MGB, why not take a test drive at your nearest dealer? It'll be an exhilarating experience. And maybe we might as well have a look, a little bit of a closer look at some of those dials. So we've got a temperature gauge over here, fuel gauge obviously, the speedo, and we have got a rev counter, and then sort of an oil pressure reading, which is nice, and then various controls I can't quite make out. Obviously one of them is the fan. Over here we've got the choke, of course. If you don't know what a choke is, all the cars needed a choke, where obviously modern cars are all got an automatic choke. Your cigar lighter, which is another kind of like feature that's been lost. And then down at the bottom we've got our clock, and then sort of the heater and the fan controls down the bottom, and this 4-speed gearbox with the overdrive. And then we get to my favourite, the MGB GT. If I wanted an MGB, I would certainly go for the GT. I really like the styling. It's a Pininfarina design, if you're wondering, and a sort of very practical, almost like a hatchback on the back. So a much more practical vehicle. Apparently, so the rumour goes, the MGB GT is actually a little bit slower accelerating because it's a heavier vehicle than the Roadster, but interestingly, because of the more aerodynamic design, it's actually got, I think, maybe like a 1 miles per hour difference between the top speeds. So like, I don't know, 104 for the MGB and maybe a top speed 105 for the MGB GT. No speed on anywhere in this brochure, and if you look on the internet, everyone tells you different information, so whether that fact is true or not, I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, this unusual pool scene and this lovely blue MGB GT, but there is some text over here, the Grand Tourer, so we'll have a look at that now. Okay, the MGB GT, the Grand Tourer. Just looking at the MGB GT, it's hard to believe it's a hard-working 2+2. Certainly, the classic sports car styling gives nothing away, but built into those stylish curves are features that make it a very desirable sports saloon. Superb suspension that gives an even better ride and handling than ever before. Tinted heat-absorbing glass to cool down the interior, and opening rear side windows to freshen it up. And many safety features, of course: 5 miles per hour impact absorbing bumpers, hazard warning lights and halogen headlamps. There are fitted head restraints, radial shod Ross-style wheels, inertia rear seat belts, reversing lamps, laminated windscreen and a heated rear window. It's economical too. With overdrive as standard, you can expect good fuel consumption even when cruising at high speeds. All this, yet with a shape that hints at power and acceleration. It's a combination that's unbeatable. And if we turn the page, we can get some more images of the MGB GT. And as you can see on this particular version, it's got these lighter striped seats, but overall I think it's a nicer design than the convertible. Nice little GT badge on the back there. Like I say, it is my favourite of the range. Again, some text over there, so we will have a look at some of that text. Okay, the MGB GT certainly lives up to the spirit of Grand Touring. Cloth covered seats in attractive striped design to keep you warm whilst exploring the Alps or cool whilst touring the Algarve. That's a weird thing to say, isn't it? Now we think of like modern cars, we've got heated and cooled seats. In this MGB GT Roadster, all you need is a cloth covered stripe design seat and that will do the same thing. The front seats are rake adjusting, the load area is carpeted and the occasional rear seats will fold down if you need even more luggage room. So, a way more practical vehicle. There's an anti-dazzle mirror, swivelling sun visors and a radio speaker in each door. The carpet is thick, the legroom is generous. There's even a storage bin in the passenger footwell. You get a distinct feeling of being surrounded in luxury and comfort. But turn the key and it's suddenly every bit a sports car. Okay, and if we move on to the next page, again, it gives us a lovely interior shot. Same sort of controls as the previous model. 4 controls this time, because I think one of them must be a heated rear window, I'd imagine, but we still got a blanking plate, which I don't know what that would be for. But anyway, if we look over the side there, we can see that much more practical luggage space, and particularly if you can fold the rear seats down as well, that's quite a useful bit of space for a sports car. But anyway, as before, we'll look at some of this text. It says MGB GT. For information and control, there's little lacking in the dashboard. Set into the elegant fascia and padded surround, you'll also find face level ventilation, cigar lighter, a clock and lockable glove compartments. There's a padded 15-inch steering wheel, handbrake and seatbelt warning lights, a flick wipe in addition to the 2-speed wipers. And at night the dials glow green and the main switches and the heating control are illuminated. Up front is every bit a sports car, but don't forget that behind there's an opening tailgate that reveals approximately 9.6 cubic feet of luggage space. Why not take a test drive and experience this unique car? Sports Saloon, Grand Tourer, what else but the MGB GT? It's quite a mouthful, isn't it? MGB GT. Say that quickly. And then finally, as always, on the back here, we've got the specification page, which we'll have a quick zoom in at. Starting off, of course, with the Midget and its 1493 cc 65 brake horsepower engine. Not going to read all the text as always, but certainly if you want to do so, you can, of course, pause the screen if you wanted to look at all this information, which there is quite a bit. So that's the Midget. Then over at the other side we've got the MGB and MGB GT, your sort of convertible roadster, and this hard-topped Grand Tourer, sharing that same engine, 1798cc, 97 brake horsepower. Gearbox there is a 4-speed synchromesh on forward gears, central remote control gear change lever, and there is an electronic overdrive it mentions there as well. Again, I'm not going to read through all this, but certainly if you are really interested, of course you could pause this screen at any time. It even gives us some of the instruments, so you could actually check what all those switches and gauges are for. A look at the coach work for the two models, the MGB and MGB GT, to see all the features. And at the bottom it even shows you the optional extras, so you could have painted wire wheels, alloy wheels with radial ply tyres. And it says on export models the specifications of these models are correct for the UK market at time of printing. On the far back page we've got sort of the usual dimensions page, which we're really not going to trouble ourselves too much with. And at the far back page, with it being a British Leyland, we've got the super cover, but we've also got this interesting chart here showing the fuel consumption on there as well. If the camera will just pick that up, there we go. You can see it's a pretty fuel efficient car for the late 70s. Not bad at all. And then finally we've got the MG badge, and it says Jaguar Rover Triumph Limited, and we can also see that sort of date stamp at the bottom there of November 1978. So there we go, the little MG family there in this 1978 brochure. Certainly an interesting one to look at, and some great little wording characteristics of 70s brochures. Let me know if you've got any memories of any of these MG models from the 70s, particularly the rubber bumper models. As with this brochure, it's like a love it or hate it model really, but I certainly, like I say, always been the cheapest MG to get into, and I think the prices will rise. I think they're certainly a bit more of a cooler car than even when they first came out. So what happened to them? Of course, the hot hatch era. Some of these cars that were way faster and way more practical came out, and far more fun to go around the corners, and all of a sudden these became very old-fashioned cars. But that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please do like and subscribe, and we'll see you very soon. Take care and goodbye.